Yo, what's up, everyone? Hassan here.
Ryan George.
Welcome back to Nature's Underrated, episode 3, our first guest episode. On this episode, we are joined by Mario Rigby, eco-explorer most well-known for walking the length of Africa. We get into his inspirations, how he got to where he is today, and what motivated him to do crazy things like walk across Africa and bike across Canada. Mr. Mario Rigby's in the house. Yay, Mario! How you doing today, bro?
You guys couldn't afford real cheerleaders. Huh?
No.
Yeah,
Not yet.
That's on the books. We're gonna get those.
It's coming.
That's part of the business plan.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. You guys are great.
How's it going, bro? How you feeling today?
Man, I feel wonderful, man. I feel blessed. I feel fortunate to just be here, you know, like just in life in general and the place that I'm at in life. So yeah.
You were telling me like last time we were talking, you were taking a step back from like socials and putting yourself out there and kind of all the work that you were doing in the previous years, which we will get into. But like, do you want to kind of like explain why you did that and how that's helped you? And
yeah, man. So when I got back from Africa in 2018, actually so straight from Africa, I went to London. I lived in London for like 6 months. And then after London, I moved to New York. And then after New York, I moved back to Toronto finally, like essentially like homeless. Like
okay.
I was going from like backpackers to backpackers to backpackers. And, you know, also like sleeping over at like people's homes that still remember me.
Yeah.
Because I was gone for like 3 years.
Okay.
And
so you left in 2020 and then
so I left in 2015, came back 2018. And, so it came back to Toronto 2019.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And as soon as I came here, I was just like, man, I just want to like bug off and get away from the city. So I took a bicycle, and I've never done any like road trips or anything like that on a bike. And I decided to just like cycle across Canada. Like,
so hold on.
West Coast.
Hold on.
So, okay. You wanted to clear your head, basically. That's he's like, I'm gonna go clear my head, but I
needed to clear my head. Yeah, absolutely. So I spent a couple of months doing that.
Okay, so how did that work though? Like, where did you start? Where did you finish? What kind of bike? What were the logistics? Did you just like hop on a bike and say, I'm gonna do it, and then
pretty much, yeah. So I decided, you know what, I want to do this trip across Canada because one, I wanted to explore the home that I live in, you know, and I felt like one of the best ways to do that is actually by bicycle.
Yeah.
Just because Canada is so vast and there are so little things in between. Like if you go through the prairies, for instance, it's just like farmland. So it's not really worth walking. I feel like taking the bike was the best path. And one of the reasons I did that is because, you know, that year it was really heavy year. Like I did a lot of campaigns. I did a lot of social media stuff. That's when like things started blowing up. Like all of a sudden I'm getting interviews left, right, and center. I was traveling all over the world. It was really intense. And that happened for like another 2 years. So, you know, doing this bike ride was really a way to alleviate some of that, I don't know, that pressure from like having to be on all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. But then, so take me through the planning process. Like you just.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So people.
If you've never done a road trip, I mean, if you've done one in a car, you kind of know what to expect. You know the routes to take. You know what you need for the journey. Yeah. But if you're just on a bike, like how do you even carry enough?
Right. So the way I do expeditions is really simple. Actually, I just look up a Google map and I go from point A to point B, which is like West Coast, like literally by the water, to East Coast, to the other side of the water. And so that's plan 1, right? Then plan 2 is you start to like look at the distance, look at like how many stops you got to make. And in order to understand how many stops you got to make, you have to do a test run, right? So I rode my bike to Niagara Falls just to see like how much that hurts.
Yeah.
And man, that kicked my ass. And I was like, okay, 126 kilometers. Whew. And I have to do like century runs every single day.
So wait, what was the total kilometers?
Total kilometers was, off the bat, I don't remember, but it was around 8,000 kilometers. So I was averaging around 200 to 300 kilometers per day.
Damn.
Yeah. Like I was doing literally 3 century rides.
Yeah.
And those were incredible. 3 century rides are actually, I lied. So 3 century rides are more from miles.
Okay.
So there's like 300 miles.
Okay.
So we're using kilometers. So it's essentially 2 century.
Okay.
2 century rides. And what I know from previous expeditions and doing like ultra long kind of anything, whether it's walking, kayaking, running, whatever it is, you have to know kind of what your pace is, but you have to also know how much you will improve over time and how quickly you improve.
True.
So I already know this, right? So I'm just thinking West Coast was the hardest portion of my trip because, you know, of all the mountains, the Rockies and whatnot. So it really kicked my ass really hard at the beginning of the journey. So I was averaging around 50 kilometers to 100 kilometers per day.
So it was like a slow build.
Super slow. And that was just me just like huffing and puffing and really hustling hard.
Yeah.
Like there were times where I just walked half of the mountain up.
Yeah. No,
well, I mean,
riding a bike up a hill is fucking hard.
It's insane. Like I'm like, who is doing this? Like, oh, it's me. You know? And I'm like slowing down traffic.
Yeah.
But by the time I made it to to Alberta, you know, I was starting to climb. I was starting to climb mountains, and you essentially become rock solid. So then I started going from 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, 150 average, then like 170, 200. Then I was on average doing 200s. And then from time to time, I would like hit like 300s, you know. When I did Toronto to,
I think you told me Ottawa.
Ottawa, right.
You had a meeting in Ottawa.
That meeting
had to get there
was
in a day?
intense. Yeah, that was an intense meeting because I had to do 360 something kilometers. And that, you know, that took me 2 days to ride. Like we're talking no sleep. Like I just kept going. And it was brutal. It was like
that doesn't sound like a road trip I want to be a part of. That's because usually if you're in a road trip with a bunch of people, you take turns. So while you're sleeping, someone else is driving. So you can go not like all day, all night.
That's what people do.
But you didn't have the backup rider to ride for you.
Yeah. My excuse usually is like I'm too poor to do these kinds of expeditions. I got to do it the tough way, right? So, which is actually partially true. Like I didn't have the budget. I didn't have the money to do such an expedition, but I also don't have excuses. You know, I'm just like, I gotta make this work. I gotta make this happen. So, I'll bear the pain. So I did the thing, and I knew that I was gonna average around 200. And then by the time I made it to the prairies, I was going like 250s like every day, basically. And then by the time I made it to Newfoundland, like, you know, I could actually dial it back a bit. So I could like do a comfortable 150. Like 150 was easy, comfortable for me. Yeah. Like I was just like,
that's crazy.
Oh man, I'm bored.
Were you camping all the way, along the way? Or
I was camping as much as I can, but you know, I would say like Canadian infrastructure when it comes to camping isn't as like robust or like readily available as it was in South Africa or even the United States.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Like cost you like $50 to get a campsite.
Yeah, true.
Which is a lot, you know,
for a campsite.
In South Africa, you can get a campsite. You can like camp out for like $5.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and in the United States, they have all these campgrounds as well, much cheaper. So it was just really like, damn, it's expensive, and also there's not a lot of places that you can camp. So you have to like go to guest houses. You gotta book hotels. It's really hard to like knock on people's doors and be like, hey, can I sleep in your home?
Did you try that?
I mean, I tried it a couple of times because there's this one farmer, but this guy was just like not having it. I'm like, yo, can I camp out in your lawn? Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was like, I think you best be gone.
Oh, wow.
In the next couple of hours.
Wow.
Damn.
I was like, oh,
at least
he gave me 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, woof.
What part of Canada was that?
This was
everyone thinking we're so fucking friendly.
But this is like this was in Ontario. Ontario I find was pretty tense actually. Ontario was probably the most tense part of Canada.
Really?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Interesting.
BC people are just like they get it. They get it. They're like, all right, this
They're
guy's
like, oh, you're doing
clearly-
something cool.
Yeah, he's doing what I want to do. I would say even in the indigenous areas, they were just like a little bit more curious. Where else was it? Newfoundland? Oh my goodness, the people were like probably the friendliest Canadians I've ever met.
Oh yeah.
Like Newfies are just like on another level. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they'll literally stop you, like physically stop you and be like, how's your day? Like, the hell, man? It's like, your day's fine.
Yeah.
They have this whole screeching culture where you kiss the fish.
I never knew that.
That's how you become a Newfie.
What do? They give you a fish and you kiss it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that easy?
Hold on. We're talking like a peck on the forehead? Are we talking like mouth to mouth?
No, you got to do mouth to mouth.
Yeah, that's how you
It'd
become
be
a real
like that.
Newfie.
That's how you know. That's how you become a Newfoundlander. Newfie.
Yeah.
Damn.
But honestly, that was like a heck of a ride. So I'll tell you another part of that journey. I actually veered down to where was it? In the United States. So I went down to the where was it?
So while you were doing Canada, you decided to go south.
Yeah, because there was this part of Ontario that was just really difficult.
Yeah. And
I was just like, I don't know if I could do this. So I went down to the south part of Lake Superior instead of the northern south side. And I ended up in Michigan. There was like a bunch of different other states. I think I crossed through 3 or 4 different states. And now I need to remember the name of that state.
What's on the border?
What's on the border?
New York.
Yeah, not New York.
You got Ohio.
Ohio's not on the border, is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not. It wraps around the lake, though.
Is it Dakota? North Dakota? No.
Maybe. I don't know.
Anyways.
Apparently, we're terrible at geography.
I don't know. I honestly don't know what state's border.
But hold on. But you're riding the bike still.
I'm riding the bike.
So how do you do that at the border? Because I've only ever crossed.
Oh yeah, true.
In
you
a
had your
vehicle.
passport and you just
you just have your passport. They checked it. And they were like, cool. And I'm like, oh man. I remember I had like a huge load of weed.
Oh.
And I was like, oh man, they're gonna catch this stuff. So I actually just dumped it before I crossed the border. And then I felt terrible.
Because they didn't check you?
Yeah.
But you never know, right? It's like, you willing to risk it. You know what I mean?
I'm like, it's what is it? At the time, I think it was unlawful.
Yeah. It was still illegal for sure.
It was still illegal.
I mean, it's still illegal to cross the border with weed now.
It is still.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
but back then it was even more.
Especially in the States, like they'll pull you over for nothing.
You don't want to. No,
you don't want to play.
No,
they will cavity search you.
I will also cavity search you. Yeah. Also, I didn't want to like fulfill the stereotype. So, anyways, like, damn it. Fulfill like all the prison stereotypes, like 70% black. But anyways, so I crossed the border and I ended up in Michigan, and we're talking like hillbilly, capital of the world.
Yeah, Michigan has a lot of like,
bro. I did not see one car that was like newer than 2000.
Wow.
Depends on where you are in Michigan. Yeah, it can.
But I went along the entire road though.
You basically did all of Michigan.
The main road. I went along the entire main road. Like, I'm sure there were a couple of cars that passed by, but when you're going on off the highway, it gets really intense, right? Especially if you're close to the lake. There are all these like guys in the 4x4 trucks and those like hillbilly cars, quad cars and whatnot. And there was, and no lie, there was a concert when I was camping out that one night. And camping, by the way, was $10. It was just $10. And you have this huge campsite, state of the art. Never saw anything like that in Canada.
No, we don't have
that price. It's crazy. It's like, why not? We have so much space.
We like to take advantage of our people.
I'm telling you.
We don't like to make the outdoors accessible.
It's crazy though.
Which is
it's
a luxury.
Outdoors.
It's such
There's one city in Canada. Let's be real.
It's honestly criminal.
There's no other city in Canada, bro.
It's really criminal, man. So I ended up going there, and there was this town that had 300 people, and there was like all these like Harley Davidson bikes and stuff parked out, and it was nighttime. I needed a place to sleep, right? There was no campsites, there was nothing around except for this little hillbilly town. And this guy, not this guy, let me tell the story properly. I walked in And just like how you could imagine, big, tall, black guy with tights on, you know, with a helmet in his hand, walks in, and it's just like, it was like they were playing like hillbilly music.
Yeah.
You know, we're not gonna take it. We're not gonna take it. Oh. And that was right after a concert that was there. They actually had some of those artists. I think Jesse's Girl.
Okay.
You know, like that song, Jesse's Girl. She's got it going on.
Or is it, no, it's not Jesse's Girl. What is it? It's Stacy's Mom.
No. You're thinking it's a different song. It is Jesse's Girl.
There's Jesse's Girl too?
There's Jesse's Girl.
No, Stacy's Mom.
Yeah.
None of these people are real people, by the way.
Yeah.
Wait, is Stacy's Mom from that movie?
That's Stacy's Mom.
No, Stacy's Mom is another song.
It's another song?
Yeah, they came out like when we were in high school. Oh. I think it's like an homage to Jesse's Girl.
Is it?
Right.
Okay. Everything's borrowed and stolen.
The original.
I only know Stacy's Mom.
No, yeah. Jesse's Girl's like an old,
shout out to Stacy.
Rock classic.
Jesse's Girl. Okay, anyway, so
anyways, it's very
like, yeah. Like our parents and our parents, if they were into rock and roll at that time, which I think a lot of people were, they would have been into that.
Yeah.
And there was that rock concert going on, and I heard that the night before I went to this small town, and they were playing it like really loud, and I'm like, holy shit, we went back in time.
Yeah.
When you go into this town, you're going back in time.
Mm.
So, anyways, jumping forward, I go into this bar. That was the only thing that was open in this like 300 populated little town, and I go in, and all of a sudden, like they're like playing rock music, and it felt like everything just stopped.
Wow.
It was just staring at
like,
me.
oh my God.
Like people with like rock and roll hair.
That's what
they know, like Harley dudes with like this like gnarly, just nasty beards, you know, like white with like, you know, the cigarettes in the middle. Proper dude. Leather jackets. And they're just staring the crap out of me. And the first thing I do is just like, oh, I'm used to this.
Yeah.
People staring at me, especially throughout Africa. Everyone just stares at you. So I just go to a table, not too far away. I don't want to be like a stranger, but also not too close. I don't want to like, you know? So I just like go to my table. Waitress finally comes up. She's like, what are you doing? But she meant it in a nice way. She said it in a nice, like, you know, she was like more like a Susie, like her name, like, you know, like if you would, you know, what Sue's like Sue, like what you would think Sue would be like. Yeah. She was Sue. And she's like, hey, these fellows over there, they wanted to give you a drink. What kind of beer do you want? And I'm like, fuck. Whatever beer that they recommend. And then I look over at them and they're like this. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? What's going on? Yeah. So they call me over and there's these three guys actually. And Sue's there. She's working at the bar across, you know, whatever. And she was like serving us drinks. And they go like, what are you doing? Yeah. And I'm like, man, I was riding my bike.
I mean, what else?
Well, they're also riding bikes too, right? Yeah. And they're like, man, we've been cross all over the country and things like that, you know? And you're telling me that you've been doing that on a bicycle? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you've seen people on bicycles, but I guess they never really spoke to anyone like that because they wouldn't be stupid enough to go to places like the one that I went to.
Well, right. You might see people in town riding their cruiser bikes with a basket on, but you don't see someone crossing the country.
No. So they were like, all right, cool. So they were interested. And there was this guy and his name was Bubba. His name was actually Bubba. I'm not even.
Okay.
Dude, I'm not even kidding.
I can already picture what this guy looks like.
Yeah. You know? Bubba was actually the younger version of a lot of the guys there. The other guys were like older Harley Davidson guys, right? And I told them about my story. I told them I'm cycling across Canada, I want more diversity in the outdoors. You know, this is the support that I'm doing. And the fact that I'm like this black man in this like super white, like little establishment.
Super white, super rural, super small town.
Yeah. They could have easily just like gotten rid of me real quick. Well, we don't like this kind of stuff right here.
And nobody would have known, right? They would have covered for each other.
Yeah. Well, Mario didn't make it, man. He probably got stuck somewhere in Vancouver. Yeah. You know? So finally, Bubba comes up to me and he's like really impressed. And he goes like, you got a place to stay around here? I don't think there's any places for you to stay. Yeah. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm just probably going to keep riding on. And he's like, Don't be a fool, man.
Shout out to Bubba.
He had this trailer park. And I know it's like the stereotype is getting like worse and worse.
Yeah.
He had a trailer, man, that he had. And he was so happy to show it to me. He was just like, man, I want to show you my trailer. You can sleep in it. You know, it's like, you know, you got 2 beds right here. You don't have to share no bed with me. You get your own little corner. Get you good water, you know. And he's like, I'll make you hash browns in the morning.
Wow.
Like this guy was like really ready to like help you out. Take care of me. Yeah. And everyone else did too. They paid for my meal at the restaurant. They paid for my drinks. Man, they essentially were like, oh man, it's such a pleasure to meet you.
Wow.
I have a feeling that a lot of those guys, that was probably the first time they even spoke to a black man. You know what I mean?
Maybe. Like there's like a high probability.
Depending on where they are in Michigan, yes. Like unless they're venturing down to Detroit.
I saw no black people.
Yeah. Upper Michigan's
like rural Michigan, you're not going to get much diversity.
And they wouldn't be going out like, you know, camping and stuff like that. Unfortunately, people of color haven't really crossed that line yet to go camping and
exploring the outdoors.
Exactly. Exploring the outdoors.
But it's so cool that 2 wheels can unite people because they have bikes. You're on a bicycle and it's just like, yo, we get it.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the connection.
That's
right?
okay. Because if you rolled in on a 4-wheeler, it's a different story.
It's different. It's like, get him out of here.
Or a tricycle. It's different.
They probably would have felt like intimidated if you were like on a motor vehicle too. Oh, sure. They'd be like, why the hell are you here? Like that's even more suspicious.
Right.
You know, the fact that you rolled up like on manpower.
Yeah.
Not like you're not relying on horsepower. You just like muscled your way up there, and it's respect, right? Because they know.
That's the thing.
Even riding a bike, I have friends that ride motorcycles, and they've done the trip from the West Coast to the East Coast. And that's tough on its own.
Yeah.
On a motorcycle. Oh, yeah. Well, I'd love to do it on a motorcycle. I would on a
bicycle is like levels above that.
Right.
There's so much more to consider.
So I think they did give me that respect. And I find that when you do crazy shit, when you go to like weird places, it doesn't matter if there's like, we're talking drug cartels.
Yeah.
If like, and I've been ambushed by like rebel soldiers and whatnot.
Yeah.
In Mozambique.
They'll
respect you.
All right, we'll get to that.
Yeah, they'll respect you, man. You know what I mean? So Bubba gave me his trailer to sleep in, and he didn't lie. I woke up smelling hash browns.
Damn.
He was cooking hash browns.
Yo, that's crazy.
In the morning.
That's
and I was
sick.
like, holy cool. That's so cool, man. Like we took a selfie together and then I was off.
Wow.
And I think, you know, when you ride your bike, you really get to see different sides of the world. And you're right. It's a way to unite people, I think, you know, because people do respect that. And if you look different than what like someone might think of cyclists would look like, because they were probably thinking like, it's going to be like some hippie dude or a white hippie dude on a bike or something like that. But no, I was just curious black guy that just, I have no biking experience. Like that was like the first time I ever did anything biking.
Wow.
Crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I learned how to be a bike mechanic on the road.
Wow.
Well, you're going to have to, right?
You have to, yeah. My first tire change took me 3 hours.
Oh, fuck. That's brutal.
Man.
Yeah, I almost like quit and just camped out right there on the spot, you know? Like,
I could see myself quitting because of something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the kind of things that like frustrate you to the point where you're like, fuck this.
Well, especially if you don't know, right? Like if you didn't plan, like normally, like, I mean, you might have a little bit of experience before you ride across the country.
No, not even a little
Or at
bit.
least take apart a bike and put it back together.
No.
But you're just like,
that's not his style.
Ride it till the wheels fall off.
That's it. Literally. And I kept riding until I'm like, man, when the problem happens, then
figure it out then.
Then that's when I'm going to figure it out.
Crazy.
Yeah. Apparently in the US, my tire popped more times than my entire trip across Canada.
Wonder why.
There was like a lot of metal on the...
Yeah, they do have dirtier, like their roads are not maintained.
Maybe.
And they have more debris on the roads.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, I don't know.
Could be.
But my tire definitely popped way more in the States than it did in Canada.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, weird fact.
I wonder why. So how did you build the mental fortitude to do all the things you've done? Like, where do you think that journey started?
Don't think too much about it. A lot of people like to overthink, man. You know?
But how did you get to that point? Were you always just like, I'm going to do it kind of guy? Always? Or was there like a 2, 3, 4 year period of your life where you were slowly building that that fortitude in your mind? And
there was definitely like a switch.
okay,
that switch happened like before like 2015.
okay,
I was like the quintessential like downtown Toronto dude. You
okay.
know? I'm like doing all the things that we talked about earlier before the podcast.
I mean,
Yeah,
right. And
just regular stuff.
Yeah,
Picnics.
regular stuff, obviously.
Picnics,
Yeah.
mostly. Picnics and barbecues.
Picklets.
Yeah.
So, you know, I did a lot of those things, and it made me feel empty, made me feel like I'm not really contributing to human society.
Yes.
And the reason I got hooked into like, well, why do I feel like I'm not doing something worthy of my time here on planet Earth?
Yeah.
It's because I went through this transition where, you know, I had this 7-year relationship and we broke up, and, you know, nothing wrong with her, nothing wrong with me. We just went our separate ways. And the reason we went our separate ways is because I started like looking into, well, what's more to life? You know, like I started to think about, I wanted to dive into what motivates humanity and what are some of the problems. And then you start like learning about all this like horrific shit that humanity has been doing to people.
Yeah.
You know, like not humanity, but we do it to ourselves. And the lies. And then, you know, then you start getting to like conspiracy theories and shit like that.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to not have like gone down that rabbit hole, because I just like, oh, I don't know, man. Like lizards on Mars. Let's look at it a little bit. That's not where I wanted to go. I just wanted to know like what motivates humans to do the things that we do.
Yeah.
Why do we stay complacent? Why do we do war? Why do we commit violence on each other?
Yeah.
Why are we the only animals that do that? So that started to build up for some weird reason. And then it just got to the point where you start learning and understanding and knowing all these things, and you just can't go back from that.
Yeah.
Like you're just like looking at your partner going like, nah, man, everything's wrong.
Yeah.
Like everything is just like, it's not the way you think it is. And
You're
I can't
evolving.
pretend. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
And I
evolving.
just can't pretend,
Yeah.
you know, but she wasn't even pretending. She was just like living this world, which is in her eyes, very beautiful and nothing wrong with it. It's just that I saw how and why that world exists, how it could be harmful to a lot of other people, especially in developing nations. And so I wanted to be a part of that.
Okay.
And so I started to shift my entire life over. But at the time when I did that, I think I was like 28 or something like that. I was wondering like to myself, you know, at that time, I didn't know what I was shifting into. It was just more like,
You're more like, I don't want to be this Mario anymore.
I couldn't be what I was before because I already know too much now.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep knowing more. But then I got to the point where I was fed up of just knowing. I wanted to experience.
Right.
And then you just like transition to experiences.
So you go from like a state of ignorance is bliss to like, how do I take action?
Yeah.
I'm now enlightened.
Yeah.
I now have this new information.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people live in that state where it's like
for sure.
ignorance is bliss. The world's great. And they don't look beyond like
Nope.
what's in
Because
their
that's easier.
close proximity.
called, yeah.
And it's like you don't know what's going on
Absolutely.
in other
I'm sorry.
countries. Like you don't know
Yeah.
anything. You're just, my world's great. I have a job. I go for coffee. I go to the club. I do
Yeah.
whatever. Life's good.
Yeah.
But no one really looks at the big picture,
Elevates
like
it, yeah.
expands their view beyond.
And then there's
The
actually the second stage before you get to the experience stage. And that second stage is like, okay, you have the knowledge, the understanding, but what do you do with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You go from ignorance to becoming enlightened to then now it's like, what do I do with the information and
Absolutely.
action? What are the action steps after that? So is that where you booked that one-way ticket?
That's So, and what you're talking about is like, I think it's like a pyramid in terms of population. Right?
Okay.
Most people are going to be in the ignorance.
That's the
Yeah,
bottom.
100%.
Yeah.
That's the bottom of the
most
pyramid.
people. Yeah. That's like
Yeah.
90% of humans. And then maybe like, I would say 20% people, like 25% people, they know like enough. And I'm not talking about woke. Like this is a weird whole thing that just came out. I don't know.
No,
I
it's
started
like,
hearing about woke like a few years ago. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what? You're So there's like
because again, they haven't experienced anything outside of their world. I went to Nigeria last year for a work trip, and I was like, "Oh, we're worried about the wrong shit back home."
Literally,
we're worried about non-problems. Like it's not a problem, but that's when you have too much abundance. And Joe Rogan touches on this. Like when the society gets to a point where you have too much abundance and freedoms, and you start looking for problems where there aren't any because 100%. You need to solve things. And if life's too good, well, we got to find the wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
So you just start making shit up.
Yeah.
But when you go to third world countries and see the world and see where the actual problems are, you're like, it gives you a little bit of perspective as to what's happening.
True human suffering.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Like you come to North America and someone tells you they're suffering. It's like, okay, no, it's not. I don't want to minimize anyone's suffering because you can suffer in North America 100%. But like, let's be real. There's some horrific stuff going on in this world, and we are very fortunate.
Even in North America, like we're talking like in how indigenous people live in rural communities where they're not protected.
Yeah,
it's crazy, man. They're living in third world conditions,
and they still don't have clean drinking water. Like, you know, I mean, Trudeau's been promising this for what, ever? Like, and nothing's been done.
It's really just not that hard. It's really not that hard to put in like clean drinking water. Like we're in Canada, man. Like,
come on,
exactly, man. A very rich country.
We have like 3 or 4 of one of the largest lakes in the world. We have Great Lakes. Like we're good, you know.
Yeah, it's again, it's you know. Anyway, so you buy a one-plane ticket,
one-way
ticket.
So,
to
South Africa.
South Africa. So I was fed up, and one day I said, like, okay, listen, man. I was actually close to the point of like, yo, like, it's either I die.
Were you depressed, would you say?
I was depressed. I was depressed because of like the realization of it all.
Okay.
Right?
Like realizing everything is shitty and then being there too.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
like, oh no.
Yo, 100%. And then like meeting people that are just even shittier. And then you're just like, I'm part of this?
Yeah.
And then you're like,
what's the point?
And then people just like doing really shitty things and like, you know, and superficial.
Yeah.
I was just like, what's the fuck? What's the point? Like, why do I even like need to keep living on? Like, you know,
I get it.
And I didn't know what to do. So I was just like, man, I need to save my life. So the way, because I chose love as the way to,
as the guide
to a guide.
Interesting. So you went from a place of feeling.
I went for a place of like love in my heart. I was just like, yo, man, I have to, if I want to do something in life, I have to like, you know, there's this movie, not a movie. So there's a TV show called The Black Panther.
Yeah.
And way back in the day, way before Black Panther came out.
Like the comic.
It was a cartoon.
It was a cartoon?
Yeah, comic, yeah.
Okay.
On BET, Black Entertainment Television. And me and my brother, we watched this like just constant. Like we were just like in love with this. Because he was like he was the only black superhero.
Yeah.
Like lone black superhero at the time. But he was unique than any other any other superhero because he was there to protect his country, but he did it not in a way to like, he didn't want to fight people.
Yeah.
You know, he wanted to protect his people from anything. Like he just like wanted to avoid it. So he worked more on avoidance than fighting.
Yeah.
And before in the movie, they didn't show this, but in the actual show, before he became the king of Wakanda, his father was assassinated, right?
Yeah.
He decided to not become the king. His uncle took over as king for a while. And then he decided, I'm going to go for a walkabout around Africa and learn about the people. He says, I want to learn to be a leader. I want to learn to be someone that understands.
So funny. Are you about to tell me that was your inspiration?
That was my inspiration.
Come on.
So funny, bro. You know why though? I've heard that more than once. So I was just listening to a Goggins podcast, and his inspiration for becoming who he was like, it was Rocky. It was Rocky. It was the scene of Rocky getting back up after he had been knocked down. He was like, bro, that was like the trigger for me to now become like turn into who he was.
Absolutely.
And it's like fiction.
Yes.
It is, right?
It is, but it's seeing that it's possible, right? And you know it's fake, but it's just like seeing that and knowing.
And it's just stuck with you. That
it's a hero's journey, right? Yeah. It's a hero's journey.
Absolutely. 100%.
Wow. It transcends
rock bottom.
Everything. Yeah.
Gawkins probably went through rock bottom. Yeah. He did go through rock bottom.
He hit the rock bottom.
And then you got to get back up.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think a story is so simple.
Yeah.
That it's easy to take that as motivation.
Yeah.
And as a storyline that will guide you throughout your mission. you know, because it's so simple. Like the Black, what's his name? T'Challa, the king of Wakanda, you know, he went through these experiences while he walked throughout Africa. He like fell in love with this girl. I must have been high when I first watched this. I don't know, because I was infatuated, but I didn't smoke weed at that time. So,
so you weren't. You were just a kid.
I was,
but
kids are high all the time.
Yeah. Basically on sugar. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but like he did this thing, and I was in love. I was infatuated. I was like, man, I want to experience this. And never did I think, even a little bit, like, could I do this?
It was just like, I'm gonna do it.
But it planted a seed, and you didn't know it then. But something from that resonated with you, and it just sat in your subconscious until you caught up to that moment in your adult life. Mm-hmm. But as a kid, you knew that to be true. You saw that and you're like, something here speaks to me. Mm-hmm. Let me just hold this for when I'm ready for it. Yeah. Right now, I don't know what it means, but when you got there,
and you knew
exactly
effort.
What it was, right? Because it wasn't like you had to search for your purpose or whatever. It's like that exact scene, that show, what I watched, that's already been implanted.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
It was there.
Isn't that crazy?
No, 100%.
Well, as it goes, energy precedes matter, right? So like that, you put that energy out as a kid, you didn't even know it. And it just took you some time to catch up to it.
Yeah.
And it showed up in a way you never could have imagined. But
time is irrelevant.
It is.
So you got that inspiration, you booked the ticket, you're down in South Africa.
So before I booked that ticket, I didn't know about the Black Panther thing yet.
Okay.
It was sitting there.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know if I could use it. Right. And I started looking at different ways that I could like fulfill my life to fulfill this purpose of what I would love to do.
Yeah.
Right. So I looked at like, backpacking around the world for a year. And I'm like, too many people are doing that. It's too easy. Need a lot of money for that too. Then I started looking at like jobs that you could do around the world. And I'm like, no one's hiring me. And then, I started looking at different, and like no sponsors. I didn't get sponsorship. Like I applied to like 100 different places. They all they laughed at me.
Yeah.
This was before. Now there's a whole like, like a diversity outdoor kind of movement going on.
Yeah.
At that time when I was doing it, there was none of that.
Yeah.
Like I was just like one of the first.
And that's like 2015 you're talking about?
2015, yeah. Between 14 and 15. And nobody was doing that really to that level. So I looked up and I said like, you know what? I want to do. Then I started looking at explorers. And I was like, holy shit, there's not a single Black explorer.
Really?
Yeah. And then that made me dive into it. And then I was like, cool, this is a good way for me to start looking for things, whatever excites me. And what excites me is going against the status quo.
Yeah.
No matter what. Like I'm just like, oh man, okay. Let's fuck things up a little bit.
I love that though. That's the best way to go about it, right? Yeah. It's like, how can we shake things up?
Yeah, I want to murk it. Yeah. And so then I was like, well, what can I do as an explorer? And then boom, the Black Panther came to memory. And I was like, fuck. This is when when I thought of that
it was like electric.
It was like beyond electric.
I know
I had like anxiety for a month.
I know what you mean,
bro.
But you go to bed every night and it's there.
Yes,
that thought is there. That's how you know it's something bigger than you.
Yeah. And I was scared to death.
Yeah,
but I had to do it. There's no way I'm not doing this. But I was scared to death, and my heart was pumping. I told all my friends. 99% of them left me, and then. And then the few that were left over, like really felt sorry for me. They thought I was going nuts.
Yeah.
They like, because I would say stupid shit like, oh man, I have to defend myself from tigers. And I'm like, tigers aren't in Africa, but let's educate you a little bit here. So I started asking my friends who even traveled to just 2 countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm like, hey, like you've traveled to more than 1 country in the world. How can I do this?
Yeah.
And they looked at me and they were like, man, you're going to die. Dude, I had a going away party and it was the saddest going away party of all time. It was like a funeral where the person hasn't died yet. And all my exes were there.
That's crazy.
No, I'm serious.
That's the craziest thing you've said so far.
It was actually, but they like all had like pity.
Yeah. They're like, fuck, Mario's going to die.
Dude, there was this one picture of me on this table and I'm like at the very end. And you can see all my exes, beautiful people. I love all of them. And it was just like, it was a funeral, man. It was a funeral. No one believed in me except for my mom.
Wow.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
I would think that your mom was like the one trying to talk you out of it. Because if I told my mom I was going to do that shit, she'd be like, no way.
My mom's crazy, man.
But
nice.
Moms have a way of like, even if they think you're crazy, they'll support you.
And that's a lot.
They won't tell you. They're thinking it. They're like, my son's lost his fucking mind. But I'm going to support him because that's what I need to do in this moment. It's like they know. They have that like intuition and that sense. They're like, I can either crush him right now. and tell him he's stupid, or I can elevate him and help, push him towards this because they know, they can feel it. They know that you need to go through this, and they might not know why. But it's like this weird innate sense. That like it's like that maternal instinct to just like, I want the best for my offspring. Like, so it's. I mean,
I feel like you were reading my mom's mind.
Shout out to your mom, man. Because like,
but let me tell you how she said it though.
Okay.
I called her up one day and I'm like, hey, I'm going to walk the length of Africa. It was like a 5-minute pause, man. Like, I don't know how long it was, but it felt like 5 minutes. Yeah. And she says, hey, you know what? You're my son. And because you're my son, I want to make sure that if you get hit by a car or anything happens to you, make sure that you're the first person in the world to cross Africa on a wheelchair.
Wow.
And I was like,
that was it. That's all you needed.
That was it.
That's all you need.
That was it. I mean, she told me like, I have to.
You have to finish it.
I'm not dead.
Yeah.
You better fucking finish it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Now that
like you have no excuse. That's how I was able to get through all that bullshit, like getting shot at, malaria, whatever, like monsoon season. What's that?
Prison.
Yeah. like jail time, being tortured, falling in love. Like literally all those things did not stop me.
Okay,
so hold on. There's a lot to unpack there. we just rattled off a lot of things and glanced over them. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'll mention a few though, but I can't mention all. There's a lot of different things because every day was like a kind of weird experience.
Okay, so let's talk about like the top 5 craziest experiences while crossing Africa. So you started in South Africa and you went to Egypt?
To Egypt, yeah.
Okay, that's insane. Okay, so let's just say like the top 5. Let's say the best hits of the worst things.
Best hits of the worst things. Okay, worst things, and then we'll talk about the good stuff, I guess.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Worst possible thing is not what you might expect. So I got malaria, cerebral malaria in Malawi, which is like the worst kind you can get. That shit gets to your brain. If you don't treat it in like 3 days, you're brain dead, right?
Wow.
So you'll have brain damage. And a week before I had it, I was partying in Malawi and I knew I shouldn't have done it.
It's always like that.
It's one of those things.
I knew I shouldn't have done it. And I was at a backpacker. And there was these 2 beautiful, gorgeous German girls.
Yeah.
I'm like, hello. And they were nurses.
Okay.
And they caught up with me eventually when I crossed the border, because I left a week before them. And I crossed the border from Malawi into Tanzania.
Okay.
As soon as I crossed the border, I started feeling like weird.
Yeah.
I was like, man, all of a sudden, I just... like everything feels weird, my body feels weak, my bones feel brittle. And so the 2 girls they messaged me. They're like, hey, are you at the border yet? And I'm like, all right, cool. And I also speak German, by the way. Like, my background is, I've lived in Germany for almost a decade.
Oh, damn.
So, and this is my first language. So,
wow.
Yeah, my upbringing is German.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I should probably mention that.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, that's a spot on accent. Like, that out of nowhere.
And they finally came and they looked at me and they're like, Mario, there's something wrong with you. And I was like, the fuck? They're like,
yeah, there's a lot wrong with me, baby girl.
Yeah, right? Yeah, there's a lot.
And canceled.
Right?
Okay.
And so they said, we think you have malaria. Yeah. And as soon as they said it, like I started like fainting.
Yeah.
Like I was just out. Like they had to literally carry me. Like we had to go in this like freaking hot, like 50-degree little tiny bus where like 100 people are in like a 20 passenger bus.
Yeah.
Right. And we're just like cramped in trying to get to the hospital. And they let me sit, and they're like standing up, trying to like make space for me. Like they're sacrificing their bodies. They're getting hit by everybody else to make sure I have some space. And we finally get to the hospital. They call up my mom. Wow. They're like, hey, this is a very random message, but your son is in good care with us. Wow. At the hospital. And I was almost dying. I was dying. I was literally dying. Yeah. Right? I was sharding diarrhea. Like literally 2 of my pants got ruined. And all this time, these girls stayed with me. Wow. They stayed with me for like over a week. Wow. Damn. Yeah. They stayed with me at the hospital. They stayed with me at this guest house. They weren't even legally allowed to sleep with me in the same room because you had to be married. It's like half Muslim country, right? So, but they snuck in. They slept in the same bed with me while I'm like screaming, crying, sharding diarrhea. Wow. Damn. Bro, it was bad.
What the hell?
That's like some guardian angel type shit.
They were literally guardian angel. Like you should see them. They look,
they look like a guardian angel.
They look like guardian angels, man. I'm just like a super lucky guy in general, man, when it comes to the right people at the right time. And so afterwards, they said like, they had to take care of me even afterwards. So I lost like 20 pounds.
Damn.
So how do they treat you for that? Is it like a pill or?
They give you a pill. Okay. And, but it's best to get treated in Africa where the malaria is because it's a specific strain of malaria. Yeah. Right. If I was to come back to Canada, I'd probably die because they wouldn't have that strain of malaria. They would have to ship it from that particular place to here because it's not common right, in Canada. So why would they have
like that malaria treatment for this malaria?
Because it's like it has what do you call it? A certain amount of time until it's expired, right? Yeah. So they treated me, and we had like the best of time afterwards. And then they just chilled with me for like over a week, just making sure I'm good, before they went on their way.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. And these are just 2 randoms that you met.
Literally 2 randoms that I met. And they stuck with me. Yeah.
Funny how life works, huh?
It's honestly, it's wild, man. So that was probably one of the, I thought I was going to probably die type things. Wow. I mean, there are many times I thought I was going to die. And then I would say the second scariest one is in South Africa. Crossing rivers was like one of the top.
That's fucking terrible.
Like we're
talking about fucking
super wide, black running water out into the ocean or from the ocean into the,
So you probably got, alligators or crocodiles.
Yeah. You have got crocodiles inland.
Hippos.
You have hippos.
Oh, fuck.
And then you have.
That's worse than the crocodile, man.
Sharks.
And sharks because the water's mixing. Yeah.
Figure 8.
Yep.
Just doing figure 8s outside, like just where the water comes out.
Just waiting.
Feeding on fish. Yeah. And once in a blue moon, one of those sharks is going to be like, hey, like, what's that? Yeah. Boom. That's gross. Spit me out.
Oh my God.
So this one time I was walking, I remember 15 hours. And this is along the Transkei, which is like just like insane, most beautiful. Anyone that goes to South Africa has to go through the Transkei. And Transkei is like it's like the Afrikaan way to say the wild coast.
Okay.
But it's just like so spectacular, untouched by people. And imagine just being by yourself there. Like the only rations I had was whatever was in my backpack. Yeah. So I had like food, water, you name it. And this one time I had to cross this river and I'm like, it's now night. It's getting close to nighttime. And I'm just like, man, fuck. I'm delusional a little bit because I've been walking now 14, 15 hours. I'm cold. I'm shivering. The rain is starting to come. If I don't cross over and find shelter, I'm going to die from hypothermia.
Yeah.
That's it. So I had to cross. And so usually what I do is I take my backpack. There's a inflatable boat. I blow it up. It's like a little kid's toy boat, right? And I put my backpack on, tie a rope, tie it against my waist, and just jump in the water like half naked and just like make it across. Easy, right? I mean, unless you get swept away or swept in. The crocodiles are waiting, or sharks are there, or rocks, or the suction of the water. Sometimes the water just
the
like
undertow just pull you under. So hold on, you're just swimming across these.
Yeah. As fast as
you can. That's it. It's not for me. That's it. It's just Dead. Hypothermia, that's it.
Can I tell you how scared I was? The first time I had to cross a river, like it took me like maybe a couple hours.
Holy fuck,
and those 2 hours were just hyping myself up.
To get in the water.
Just to get in the water. I'm just like, this is pretty suicidal.
Yeah, dude.
But I had no other way. There was literally no other way. I couldn't go inland. I couldn't go back. But going back was too far. I would run out of water. I would die from dehydration.
Yeah.
Man, when you're on a death level,
you have
motivated.
no option.
Yeah, you're motivated, right?
Yeah.
So this time I was a little bit disoriented. So what I decided to do was like lift the bag above my head, and I thought I could just walk across this river. It didn't make any sense. Like, what the fuck am I talking? It was a large river, right? And as soon as I like took my first step, like it's the just sucked me underwater. And I remember like things happening in like slow motion. It's just like, and I'm just like underwater. I'm spinning around and shit. And I'm just like, man, definitely dead right now.
Fuck.
This is me dying. I'm like, and I was accepting it.
Yeah.
To a certain level, right? Until I remembered there was like this Afrikaans guy who told me, if you ever cross the river, make sure that you allow yourself to float and let the river take you to wherever it wants to take. Do not fight against the river.
Yeah.
If you fight, the river will take you.
So what did you do? I
just chilled.
Wow.
I mean, at first I was fighting, right? And that's when I thought I was dying. I'm just like, oh man.
It's over.
It's over. And then all of a sudden I said, no, fuck it. Let me just chill and hope that there's no sharks or anything or sharp rocks that'll cut me.
Yeah.
And so the river just splits in like this and like kind of curls in either, direction. So I actually ended up going back to where I started.
Well, yeah, so you didn't make any progress, but you didn't die.
Maybe try again.
Yeah, but imagine like you've been knocked down. Like you're now like stage 2 hypothermia. Yeah. You're shaking.
So
you're like,
is the water? I mean, assume the water is pretty cold too.
The water's pretty
it's
cold.
Hot during the day, but I'm assuming it's hot during the day and cold at night.
The water at that time was cold, but it wasn't that cold. It was more like the rain and the wind. Outside.
Yeah. So it's a combination of everything.
Exactly.
Okay.
And also being exposed to water for that long.
Yeah.
Because it was raining like heavy. At this time, now it's nighttime.
Yeah.
So now not only do I have to do this river crossing again, but now it's nighttime and it's cold. And I saw like this chimney of smoke in the distance, but it's across the river.
Yeah. And you're like, I need to get to the chimney of smoke.
Yeah. So I did it again, but this time I did it the smart way, which is how I usually do it. So I took the raft or whatever, put my backpack in it. I swam across this time. And I remember like I swam so fast. I just like almost like I felt like I blacked out and then like I woke up on the beach.
Wow.
And I remember when I felt the sand, man, I just crawled so fast and I went on the beach and I like screamed so loud. That was like the first animalistic, like
primal, like
the most primal thing I ever felt in my life.
Yeah.
I like screamed like I'm like so loud. And the funniest part of the story is what's about to happen next, actually. So I go where the smoke is.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like next level human now. Like I'm
a savage.
I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah, like I'm a savage.
I feel like, how would like CIA agent operative feel like? You know what I mean? So I felt like, okay, cool. I'm like invincible now. So I'm carrying my my inflatable thing and my backpack, and I'm just dripping. And I just have to climb this like little cliff to get to where the smoke was. And apparently it was this like super luxurious villa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like super luxurious. Like all these like super rich Afrikaners who don't like black people, by the way.
But are they black?
No, they're not Afrikaners. They're like the Dutch white.
Gotcha.
South Africans. Yeah.
So that's what they call
colonizers.
Afrikaans. Okay. Yeah, they're called
Afrikaans are like white.
Yeah.
White.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
They get a fancier name.
They get
oh, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Afrikaner.
Yeah.
So, and they speak like a mix of like Dutch and whatnot. Some of them don't even speak English.
Wow.
And so, I go to this restaurant where everybody was there. At that time, it was like dinner time. And then I show up just like that motorbike situation.
Yeah.
And I show up and I'm just dripping. And I'm just like, I just stare at everybody and everyone's just like staring back at me. Almost they look scared.
Yeah, of course.
First.
Well, I mean, looked like
they're like, oh, we're gonna be assassinated. Yeah. We're all dead. And the owner comes up to me and he goes like, who are you? And I'm like, I did this river crossing, just came over, been walking across Africa. And you know, I'm at the beginning of my journey. And then he's like, you telling me you had just crossed this river?
Yeah.
Do you know that every year someone is dying from this river? You, my friend, are brave. Yeah. Because of that, you get a place to stay.
Wow.
Dude, they gave me 2 days there at this like luxurious villa.
Nice.
Where I just like dried out all my stuff and just like.
That must have felt so amazing after that.
Like, but isn't that a beautiful just lesson for everybody out there? Because I feel like this applies in so many situations and just life in general. You always have to do the hard thing to get the reward on the other side.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
absolutely.
You're never going to get that from taking the easy route.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're never going to get to experience that.
Like no one's going to be like, if Mario had told the guy, oh, you know, like I'm just a tourist that flew in. He's not going to be like, I'm going to give you 2 nights.
And I got stuck in the rain. That's why I'm wet. They could be like, get the fuck out of here. You telling me you crossed that river at night.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, and you're walking across Africa.
Yeah.
Bro. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, even though like the easy path always seems like the easy path, there's no reward in that.
Yeah.
No risk,
There's
reward.
no reward.
Right. So like
100%.
It's always doing the hard things that you know might be dangerous, or even not necessarily only dangerous. Like obviously don't only do things that might kill you, but
don't do what I do.
Overcoming the challenges and the adversity. And on the other side, there's always something better. There's no matter how hard it is, what you're going through, whatever, there's always something better.
Yeah.
And this is just a prime example of that.
I always say, especially when I was riding my bike across Canada, there's these massive hills, right? It's like 8,000 kilometers of just like constant hills.
Yeah.
You get to a point where you're just like, man, I just wish there was no hills. just one time. And then there's a hill.
Yeah.
And then, man, okay, cool. Just no more hills, please. And then there's a bigger hill that's like 3 times the one that was like the one before.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to keep pushing it. Yeah. I feel like that's a great metaphor for life as well. You know, like in the sense of like,
there's always a bigger hill.
There's always a bigger hill.
Always.
Man, you know?
Always.
And you never know when it's going to come.
Yeah.
No.
You never know what's going to come.
Well, I mean, you almost died of malaria. You had these 2 randoms who are nurses.
Yeah.
Right.
Beautiful
that just
experience.
show up. Right.
Yeah. We all slept in the same bed afterwards. And it was like, like there was no like thing going on. It was platonic.
It was just like completely like,
it was just like.
So that nurturing presence, right? Like they were there to just, they wanted to like nurse you back to life.
So like, nurturing. I needed that. I needed that at that time. I needed someone to like be there to support me in that way because I was just like this rough, like I was rugging, like, you know, roughing it out.
Yeah.
And so, oh shit, it's 1 o'clock.
That's okay. Got half an hour.
We got that. We're literally at the end of the street.
Okay. Yeah. And so it was a lot of like, it's those moments that make me want to keep going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's those kind of experiences that are like, make it all worth it.
Absolutely. And then you start to see that as a rhythm.
Absolutely.
It becomes a rhythm. Like, okay, cool. There's always glory over the hill.
Yeah. So you had the brain malaria and crossing the river and almost dying.
The river crossing. Yeah. The river crossing was intense. Yeah.
I want to know about your prison, bro. I want to know about you going to prison.
Oh, that's a long story.
That's a long story.
Yeah. I feel like that needs to, because there are like layers to it. You know, I went to jail a bunch of times, but there's this one particular time that it was really bad.
Yeah.
It was like, it goes into like colonialism and all that kind of stuff. And
all right, we'll save it then.
We'll say that one.
We'll save it for
There's like a chief involved, like a midget guy. But anyways, it's all good. No, he literally was a midget.
What?
Like he's like a midget.
A midget chief?
Yes.
That's crazy.
It's like I'm telling you,
that's
like,
crazy. Okay.
That's crazy.
No, it's wild.
You know what?
Yeah.
We'll get into that later.
All right, but so there's this one time, also South Africa, at the beginning, a lot of things happened in South Africa. It was like my learning.
Yeah. The first part of the journey. It makes sense.
Like I learned like cycling across Canada, like the hills, right? So South Africa was the hills. And there was this part I call the beach trap. And the beach trap essentially is when you've gone too far forward, you can't go back.
Yeah.
Because if you go back, you don't have enough water.
Yeah.
Right. I could desalinate the water, but that just like, it slows things down. It's not the most efficient way to be. So I've already gone 150 kilometers on the beach. You can go inland too, because we're talking like venomous snakes and spiders and shit. They could kill you.
Yeah.
And you have hundreds of kilometers until the next village, if you find it. So the only way to move is forward, which is another 20 to 30 kilometers. And I got to this point where close to the end of the day, it was like around 5 o'clock. I remember I hit the wall because I'm walking on average 13, 14, 15 hours a day, right? So I hit the wall and I wanted to keep going because I didn't want to like chill on the beach anymore. I'm like running out of water.
Yeah.
I could see literally my lifeline going down. It was like a video game. When you're just like looking at your water and like that is your medicine. That is like, that thing will save you, right? And you can see the water just going down. Woo boy. That's like going further down until it got to a point where I'm like, I'm being stingy with drinking. So I dehydrated a bit, right?
Yeah.
So I should have drank all the water and just like chilled, waited at nighttime and then continue. But I didn't do that. I went a little bit too stingy with drinking. And all of a sudden I just remember like looking up a little bit, which was a mistake. And I just like fell back, just like completely laid out on the sand. I don't even really remember it. I just remember just like kind of like being on the sand and like opening up my eyes. And then I saw this like seagull just kind of like fly over me like this. Like it was just weird. And I remember like the seagull just kind of like looking back at me. I don't know if it was like an illusion or not, but it felt real. And the seagull, and there are a lot of seagulls there. And the seagull just kind of like looked back at me. And I was like, whoa, I almost felt like I was vortexed into the seagull's kind of mind, looking back at myself from the seagull's perspective on the beach. And I'm just like laying there. And there was an extra detail that I know wasn't true. It was a hallucination, but I saw it. And it looked like blood was flowing down from my body, down the beach into the water. And just like the waves of the water was just like crashing into the blood, mixing it up and then essentially disappearing. And to me, that was like almost symbolism. Yeah. I'm dying. But for sure I'm dying. Again. And two, it was the moment in my life where I stopped fearing death. Like, because of what that meant. What was happening was I was becoming whatever everything is.
The infinite.
The infinite of what everything is.
You become one.
Yeah.
It's the only way to explain it.
But you understand you're part of.
I felt it.
Yeah.
But I felt it. There's one thing to like know that, but to feel it. Holy shit. Man.
Yes.
Like I felt like I was the ocean. I felt like I was the sand, the bird, the everything.
So in essence, what you experienced in that near-death experience was what most people take mushrooms for. Like a psychedelic, to experience and have that
that's a DMT
realization of connectiveness. But you had an outer body experience where you were close, which is funny because when people are on their deathbed and they are close to dying, you do get a release of DMT.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you started getting like a micro dose of DMT and you started experiencing this shit and you're like, oh, wow, this is what life is like. But you also saw, like, I'm sure in that moment, you're probably feeling like this can't be it. Like, this isn't how it ends. This isn't my story.
Is that what happened? Is that what pulled you back?
So what ended up happening was I needed to fight because to me, it would be more embarrassing to die there on the spot than to, for me, it wasn't about the death. That's not what motivated me. Dying wasn't my motivation. It was, I had a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
And that bigger purpose was like, okay, well, if you want to create diversity in the outdoors, and I can't die.
Yeah.
That would be embarrassing. Be like, see, we told you they can't do it.
Yeah.
And two, I wanted to show the beauty of Africa in ways that like haven't really been shown before. And I felt like the best way to show everyday African life was to walk with Africans in a way.
Right.
And if I died, I couldn't accomplish that mission.
The Wakanda, bro.
Yeah, Wakanda forever.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, you know what's crazy to me? Because you said you wanted to like bring, like shed light on like the lack of diversity in outdoors activities and all that stuff. But like Africa is the ultimate outdoor experience.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And that's just their life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you put a white guy in that environment, like someone from the city, and you put them, they're dead.
Oh, they're dead. They're dead.
So like, it's funny because our outdoor like experience and culture here is like, oh, let's go glamping. Let's go. It's not the same thing. It's not. So like we're really appropriating the outdoor lifestyle and culture from Africans, from Africa, because that's the ultimate outdoor experience, which is hilarious to me.
And they're working with just a little bit.
Yeah.
They have nothing.
We have all the tools.
All the fancy gear.
My car is full of gear.
Right. Propane, gas, everything.
Like extra propane with different nozzles on them, just in case I got the other thing.
Right. Like, you got your whole coffee kit. You got to like
everything.
Spoiled rotten. But they make it work with literally nothing.
I freaked out some rural Africans one time by having the burner.
Oh yeah.
They were like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
They've never seen it.
Like you could just make like fuck that. Like you just made a stove.
Yeah.
Like you know,
it's like this big. It's compact.
It's like out of nowhere. It's like abracadabra. You know, like
and they're like, whoa.
Yeah, dude. I have a video where I actually showed this.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. I have a video where they're just all going like, I'm Billy. Like, bro, they're clicking and shit. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
That's crazy.
Amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I took a lot of videos. That's one thing I really loved about one thing that I loved that I did was I took a lot of footage.
You documented.
So I wanted to ask you about that because I was on your website doing some research this morning and I saw that you had a photography section and I noticed your Instagram's got a bunch of like dope content on it. And I'm just curious. I'm like, either he's traveling with the cameraman or he's mastered the art of the selfie and he's figured it out. So my question is, because coming from that background and doing this, I know how much extra effort that takes to document stuff when you're also trying not to die. Yeah. From my experience in Nigeria anyways, that's what it was like for me. But just like the extra effort and thought you have to put into planning, it's like, I need to also document this so people can share in the journey while trying to navigate the landscape, while in everything else. So like, what is the thought process there and how did you navigate those two things?
That's a good question, actually. It's a really good question. Never had that question before. That's the first one. That's good. That's wow. All right.
Nice. Good job.
Yeah. Because I've had every question asked, right? Yeah. But most of the time, I wish I took more footage. I just like what I have is very small compared to the entire trip, right? Like, remember, I did 2.5 to 3 years in Africa. I could have had like endless content.
Yes.
But at the beginning, I lost my camera. When I crossed that river,
oh shit,
I lost the content.
Yeah.
Like everything got soaked.
Oh fuck.
So my Sony, I had a small point and shoot, really good Sony camera. It got ruined. So then I had to use my iPhone. Then eventually that got ruined. And then I just used like $100 cheap phone. And that's the only thing I used. You know, I had a GoPro that got stolen. like I was just like, man, I'm just stuck with this $100 phone. So I started making films with it. And the way I would do it is like, yes, I started mastering the selfie, like just putting the camera somewhere like next to a rock or in the bush. But I also was a master at like getting people to hold the camera for me. Like there's like footage and you'll be like, who the hell took this?
Yeah.
It's because I gave some random dude in a village. I told him how to hold it. He didn't even speak English.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, hold camera, play. And you know, like this. Yeah. And I'd just be like, hold it, hold it. Yeah. You know, and then they would. And, you know, so I was just like, cool. Most of the time they would. But there were times where they didn't. And that's where I wish like I had like if I had a videographer come with me, man, it would be like,
it would be documentary level.
It would be like crazy.
But then also,
that'd be like Netflix documentary.
It's someone else to worry about. And, right? Can they keep up? What like
that as well? Yeah.
Right. Like it's just, it adds a whole nother level of planning and preparation. And it's like because now it's not just you.
Yeah.
Because if shit hits the fan, you made this choice, but now there's someone else with you. It's like, fuck. And what if they're not cut up from it, right? Like, what if they're halfway through, they're like, fuck it, I'm out.
I was always afraid of having other people come along because there were other explorers who've had people come and they died. So like my one close buddy, he actually was my guide throughout this trip because he did the entire length of the River Nile. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
So from Ghana, from Uganda to Egypt. So he did a lengthy bit. Yeah. And so I got in contact with him. We're close friends now. And he's a British explorer, was with the military and everything like that. And he had a guy with him, American journalist, who joined him 3 days. And they went through this like rough bush area, very hot that day, like 53-degree weather. And the guy was just like, oh man, I'm feeling sleepy, passed out, and never woke up again.
Whoa.
That's
just died right there on the tracks.
What, from a heat?
From heat stroke, yeah.
Fuck.
You got heat stroke, man.
Fuck.
People, honestly, the way you die is not how you would expect.
Yeah, like people were thinking like, oh, like a predator is going to eat you. But it's the sun.
No, it's the sun.
Yeah.
It's the sun, dehydration, and heat stroke.
Dehydration, disease, bugs.
Disease, bugs. Yeah. Those little things.
The like little things.
Crazy.
That's what almost killed me mostly. That's why I tell you guys those things first,
Yeah.
And there's a river crossing as well.
Yeah.
Which is like the stark opposite. There's a lot of water.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Like water, like a river, you don't expect it to be the thing that kills you.
No.
And the rain expect it to thing in the water.
Yeah.
Like a crocodile or a shark is what's going to kill you.
No,
right.
No.
Yeah.
You would be surprised. You're more likely to die from just the environment alone. Yeah. Before you even
encounter anything else. Yeah.
And then before you die by animals, you probably die by another person.
Human. I was going to say that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Before an animal kills you, that's so funny though, right? We're all worried about the animals, but really it's a human.
It's the human.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Well, even weird. Like, I know, and another thing too is like with the gear, if you have the gear, now it's almost like you're a target also because they're like, because when I was there filming, there were so many times where I was taking my camera, I'm getting ready, they're like, you need to put that away. Like right now.
Was died by like an Afrikaner.
Yeah.
Because he had a shotgun and he was like,
he didn't know who you were. It was just,
he didn't know who I was. So he was just like, you can't sleep on this property.
Crazy.
Because I pitched my tent on this farmland that was like huge farmland. That was like not used.
Yeah.
And I'm in the corner by the road. And this guy with a shotgun and his son come out.
Whoa.
And I'm like, man, come on. I just want to sleep. It's so late. But yeah, so all those things happen, and the river crossing, I mean, you probably have we probably have like another 8 hours of conversation. Yeah.
I would love to sit here for another 8 hours. That's unrealistic. I think we're definitely going to do a part 2 with you.
Well, absolutely.
I'm definitely interested in getting it.
We got to get to the upside of
you got to get to the good stories. The good stories.
But for each like tragic event, there's like something positive happen at the end. So yeah. And I'm here.
Yeah. Well, you're here to tell the story, right? Yeah. And you've done many other adventures since this one.
Since that one. Yeah.
So this was like the catalyst for everything else that was to come. So we can get into that too, and how this event changed your life effectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I guess we're just going to leave it on that note. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Look out for part 2. If you're interested in Mario's story, there's definitely going to be a part 2 where we dig a little bit deeper. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Love you guys. If you haven't subscribed or liked or done any of that stuff, we would love for you to do that. Please leave comments and likes.
Absolutely.
Love y'all.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
See you guys on the next one.
Later.
Peace.
Peace.